We're unmuted.
Unmuted. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It is so lovely to see so many people here and engaged. So thank you all for coming out. I'll call to order at 6:04.
President Valerie Weinthaler,
Here.
Vice President Andrea DePillo,
Here.
Councilmember Deb Cassini-Klein, Councilmember Matt Casiglia,
Here.
Councilmember Greg Podanovich, Councilmember Shirley Blair Fuller,
Here.
Councilmember Suzanne Mitchell, and Mayor Paul Gamrat.
Here.
We'll get started.
All right.
Take it off, Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you, Madam President. Now is the time and the place for the public hearing on the possible enactment of an ordinance that would amend Chapter 304 zoning of the Code of the Borough of Churchill to modify regulations related to mixed-use development and related zoning provisions. So just so everybody has a full understanding of what we're doing here tonight, there's no vote tonight. There's no review of any proposed development tonight. The procedure will be that this is the time for the public to provide comments on the draft legislation that is before council. After everybody has an opportunity to speak, we will be limiting comments to 3 minutes. I will be keeping time. I will give you a wave at 1 minute. I'll try not to cut you off, but we do have to be hard and fast with the 3 minutes so that everybody has a chance to speak tonight. After tonight's public hearing closes, the council will have an opportunity over the next week to consider the comments that were made during this public hearing. And there will, at least at this time, there's scheduled to be a vote on the zoning amendment at next Monday's May 11th meeting. If the matter would proceed, if the amendment is approved by council and the developer decides to move forward with the project, the next step would be for the developer to file an application for both conditional use approval and likely land development, although that could come later, and then go through the process that's prescribed in this new zoning ordinance as to how the development would come before council, would ultimately be approved or not approved after a public hearing before council on a conditional use application. So just to be really clear, we're not going to be diving down into the granular level of what may or may not be developed at the property. Because some of that hasn't even been decided yet. But this ordinance would allow either this developer or another owner of the property in the future to, as one option to develop the property as a mixed use development that would include components of retail, residential, and everything else that you saw in this lovely lengthy piece of litigation or legislation that's before you. So with that said, there's no particular order, although if the property owner of this site is planning on providing comment, I think it would make sense to start with those folks. We're not looking for a full presentation, but if you can maybe introduce yourselves and give a kind of a high level overview of what, if this ordinance is approved, what that development might look like in the future. So with that, we'll give the first option to the applicant for the developer property owner. If you want to step up, everyone who comes up to the microphone, please make sure you speak into that microphone at the podium there. State your name, spell your last name, and give us your address. And again, it will be 3 minutes, and keep an eye on me, and I'm going to give you a stop at 3 minutes, but I will give you a warning at 1.
And before we get started, I'd like to say we have about 40 plus people in the room for those online, so you are aware, and we have 6 people online.
Sure.
Also, if we need to, we can move the podium up a bit. Yeah.
Is this good?
I didn't know if you needed space behind you. You can move the podium up a little bit.
No, I'm just like, wait, here. There we go.
No, you're fine.
You're good.
Thank you.
All good.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Well, good evening. I'm Nicole DeLuca. I'm one of the owners of 1310 Beulah Road. And we'll just give a quick synopsis of what we're trying to work on, which is to develop the former Westinghouse property. As you can see, this is just a conceptual plan that we talked about at last meeting that will have retail. It will have some residential, some, maybe some office, some medical office. This is a mixed use development that we're looking to do here. We want to make this a very walkable site, a very walkable, very friendly, welcoming development that, you know, we are also, as you can see, place for people to go and shop and, you know, maybe be able to see your doctor and actually even also live. So that is a quick rendition of what this development, what we're looking to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on your side? Okay. All right, now that we've heard from the property owner, we'll open it up. There's no particular order. Don't trample each other on the way to the podium. But otherwise, we'll take whoever would like to speak first. And if you could just step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and we'll go from there.
Hi, my name is Sandra Fox, FOX, and I live at 38 Holland Road in Churchill. I'm glad the proposal for mixed-use development is emphasizing walkability. To ensure this is possible, we need a commitment from the Borough of Churchill to secure funding for sidewalks on Churchill Road where there are none, and upgrades where some sidewalks on Beulah exist, plus a pedestrian crosswalk on Churchill and Beulah roads. I'm concerned about demolition of existing mid-century historic buildings and wish reuse would be possible instead. However, should demolition occur, it needs to be done safely with maximum attention to best practices to ensure the safety and well-being of the workers and nearby residents. I'm also concerned about the number of trees that will be cut down in the process of building and would like to see minimal disturbance to the existing tree canopy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
And any resident or taxpayer of Churchill is eligible to speak at this public hearing. So if you are a resident or taxpayer and want to make a comment, come on up. Thank you, Mr. Balky. I knew we could count on you.
Good evening. I'm Ken Balky, Balkey, last name. I'm a resident of 2007 Hampstead Drive. And the comments I'm going to make fit behind what Sandy just had. I worked for Westinghouse for 42 years, including the R&D Center in the 1980s and after 9/11. I'm a registered professional engineer in Pennsylvania. Although retired, I remain an adjunct faculty member in Pitt's engineering program, where I do a graduate course on safety standards for nuclear plants. I chair the Borough of Churchill Tree Committee. For review of the proposed ordinance number 781, having a requirement that urban tree canopy expansion through planting more than 10 shade trees above ordinance minimum, and having requirements for tree planting as part of landscaping needs for various structures governed by the ordinance will support our borough tree canopy coverage. However, the proposed ordinance is silent on tree removal, particularly when one reviews the rendering just showed here this evening, where it shows that the possibility of removing number of trees on the steep slopes above Beulah Road and other sites and the new road into the site where their labs are still operational. I'd like to request that the presentation I delivered on September 13th, 2021, titled Review of Tree Survey Westinghouse Site Impacts, as part of the hearings on, they were delivered as part of the proposed Amazon distribution center at that time. But I'd like those record to be for this ordinance as well, because all the information from that presentation remains applicable today. The R&D property is high ground and starts water runoff into the valley along Beulah Road, continuing down into Turtle Creek. The presentation reviewed in 2021 that stormwater runoff from the back-to-back hurricanes that occurred in September 2004 when record rainfall struck our area. I worked at the R&D site the day that Hurricane Ivan dropped 6 inches of rain on that site. I was shocked at the depth of water on the Buell Road from the R&D site, even with all the mature trees in place. I learned that cars had to be extracted from the torrent of flowing water down the valley. Fortunately, no one was injured or drowned back at that time. My September 2021 presentation also discusses the tree count on the R&D property, with more than 1,400 mature trees counted via 2 different teams of people. About 800 mature trees are on the steep slopes above Buell Road, and 600 more are on the steep slopes facing on the southwest side facing Greensburg Pike. It is estimated that these trees would withhold about 80,000 gallons of water during a storm. Other health and environmental impacts from the trees on their property are also excluded. My fellow tree committee member, Tracy Sharpness, is going to speak with a proposal we have for you. And I have one personal comment. We have a coach here from Woodland Hills High School, and she asked me as a resident here to consider, could we possibly consider an indoor track that would be very unique versus what's available throughout the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bulkey.
Thanks, Ken.
Um, my name is Tracy Sharksness. I reside at 2040 Hampstead Drive, where I've lived for 22 years. I've served on the Borough of Churchill Tree Committee for the past several years, and I'm going to speak in conjunction with some of the things that Ken just mentioned. Before I present proposed language for the proposed ordinance number 781, as mentioned in Ken's remarks, let me share some background to the trees and stormwater topic. For more than a year, our Churchill Tree Committee has been meeting with other tree committees and shade tree commissions from throughout Allegheny County as part of either Connect Pittsburgh Canopy Alliance or in joint tree committee meetings hosted by one of our fellow municipalities. Our goal is to protect all our tree canopies. From 2015 to 2020, Allegheny County had a net loss of 4,115 acres of trees. That presents a loss of 1.7% in tree canopy in just 5 years. Residential parcels saw the largest net loss of trees. Landslide-prone areas showed a net loss of 691 acres. Municipalities across Allegheny County want a high priority focus on trees, stormwater management, and other related issues. A session was recently held where the tree and stormwater ordinances from participating municipalities were reviewed and scored against desired ordinances. Churchill scored 44 out of 100. And this result was reported to our borough's new stormwater authority and other borough officials. Steps are beginning to be taken to revise our tree and stormwater ordinances. However, such action will not be completed before proposed ordinance number 781 is approved. Because of the situation, the following language is proposed for incorporation into proposed ordinance 781 at an appropriate point in the document. Any proposed removal of large trees, particularly from steep hillsides and slopes, must be approved by the Churchill Borough Stormwater Authority with input from the Borough of Churchill Tree Committee. Definitions for what constitutes steep can be obtained from advice in a steep slope ordinance discussed in the We Conserve PA library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
My name is Kathy Bordner, and I live at 1926 Hampstead Drive. And before you start my time, I request some clarification. If you do not get through all of the public comments tonight, are you just going to still end the public hearing?
We will get through all the public comments tonight.
Okay. And another question I have, the past public hearings I attended for Churchill, there was no time limit on comments, and therefore my comments are 11 minutes long. I'll get through what I can in 3 minutes. I then would like to submit my written comments and have that included in the public record. And I would request that Ashley make a hard copy and distribute it to the council members to make sure that they get all of my public comment.
Yeah,
if
that's
that's
perfect.
possible. Okay,
Thank you.
great. Okay, let's start. On page 2, under the definition for data center, it states this use shall also include cryptocurrency mining, blockchain transaction processing, and server farms. I suggest you take cryptocurrency mining, blockchain transaction processing, and server farms out of that definition. I think you believe that by limiting the size of data centers to 25 square feet, you will prevent any developer from wanting to build one in the C1 district. But cryptocurrency mining facilities are different and they can be much smaller. I recommend you have cryptocurrency mining facilities under its own definition and limit the size to 5,000 square feet or something like that. On page 5, under B, submission requirements, it states a summary of stormwater, open space, and utility concepts sufficient to demonstrate feasibility. In light of the discussion and testimony about stormwater containment systems during the conditional use hearings on the Hillwood Amazon application, I find this wording weak and unacceptable. My concern about this issue is specific to the Westinghouse site. It's possible the development will result in cutting down mature trees that are currently absorbing stormwater on the site. It is very important that the ordinance requires a stormwater containment system sufficient to mitigate the damage that removing mature trees will cause. I realize some council members may not have heard the testimony about stormwater containment that occurred during the Hillwood public hearings. I suggest you have staff provide you with a link to that specific recorded testimony. I'd be happy to help Ashley identify the correct recordings. You should review what was said, especially the testimony by Dr. Elizabeth Kassman and Ken Balke in response to what was presented by Hillwood. Focus on their comments. If the ordinance that you are proposing had been worded this way in 2021, and if Amazon had not withdrawn their application and had instead built their distribution center, it would be just a matter of time before that system failed and caused serious flooding. The power outage a year ago may have been the event to cause that failure. On page 9, under H, it states the applicant shall provide a traffic study, which study shall be subject to review and approval by the borough engineer. I recommend you include wording that will ensure the public has the opportunity to review the traffic study and before the engineer approves it. The wording regarding the traffic study must require that it meets certain standards and requirements. If it fails to meet those standards and requirements, it will not be approved. And I have 4 or 5 other issues. I do object to you limiting public comments. I know you don't want to sit there like you had to during Amazon.
We will note your objection for the record, but your time is up.
All right, thank you. Let me just.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Gabby. Appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Janikis, resident 137 Thornberry Drive. My husband and I and family have lived there since 2012. Being traffic was just brought up, I wasn't sure if this was appropriate, but I feel it is now. My big concern is traffic on Beulah Road. Aside from just where the proposed planning is, Beulah Road is a major thoroughfare. Our street, Thornberry Drive, is a huge cut-through street, as well as Homer Drive is an access up to Monroeville. Concerning traffic on those streets, just that something would be addressed. We have trouble just making a left-hand turn at the bottom of Thornberry to get onto Beulah Road, then to make a right onto Homer. But then when you come down Homer, obviously you have to make a left to make another right. The intersections are very close. I don't know what could be done to resolve that, but obviously whatever goes in at the site, that has to be addressed because it's just, it's dangerous. There's many times people cut the corners. There's lots and lots of speeding on the street. The school buses are another issue in itself. but just hopefully that will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And how do you spell your last name? I'm sorry.
Sure. It's Janakis. Janicus.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Julie Carroll, Caryl. I live at 67 Loxley Drive. I'm going to continue where Kathy Bordner started. On page 9, under H, it states, the applicant shall provide a traffic study, which study shall be subject to review and approval by the borough engineer. The applicant shall make any improvements required by such traffic study to mitigate excessive impacts on traffic and to ensure traffic safety. I recommend you include wording that will ensure the public has the opportunity to review the traffic study and comment on it before the engineer approves it. The public drives on the borough streets and can identify omissions and problems with traffic studies like we did in 2021 with the inadequate traffic study prepared by Hillwood's consultants. We were told that it was not possible to hold Hillwood to a higher standard because the ordinance simply said they had to submit a traffic study, and the traffic study would be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer. The above wording sets us up for a similar situation. The wording regarding the traffic study must require that it meets certain standards and requirements. If it fails to meet those standards and requirements, it will not be approved. On page 22 and 23, under F, noise and vibration, I recommend improving that entire section. Under A, it discusses the applicant conducting a sound study that demonstrates the sound generated will be limited to the described decibel level. What happens if residents hire a different professional acoustical expert who finds flaws in the original sound study? As it is written, I am concerned that future councils will not be able to deny a permit for a development that would create unacceptable noise and vibrations in the surrounding residential neighborhoods. All you are requiring in the current draft is that the applicant submit a sound study that shows what they want it to show. Under B, it states maximum decibel levels specified herein shall not apply during times of power outage. However, the sound study shall also evaluate and report anticipated decibel levels when all emergency power generation equipment is running, including backup generators. I suggest you revise this. I'm not going to recommend specific changes, except to say that there should be something in the sound ordinance and in this zoning ordinance that the maximum decibel levels do not apply during power outages to residents, retail, and other uses, such as churches, schools, daycares, gas stations, etc. Perhaps you could then come up with a decibel level that would apply to data centers and crypto mining facilities during power outage that would not be unbearable to surrounding homes and businesses.
Thank you for your comments. That's your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else before we close up the public hearing? Okay. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. We're going to adjourn the
Online.
then with this. It's
Online.
not advertised for.
Mm-mm.
If you wanted
Yeah.
to come, you had to show up in person.
Yeah.
That's how we did it. So we are going to adjourn the public hearing. We're going to go into an executive session to discuss real estate matter with council, and we'll be out here as close to 7 o'clock to get restarted as possible.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you.
coming out.